Yo, this is Bench Gamer here. So in the past day or two, I'm not sure when exactly because of time zone differences, but it's probably definitely within the last week. The Chinese community over, well, in China have found the social media accounts of a Honkai Star Rail screenwriter, or at least they're reasonably sure it's a Honkai Star Rail screenwriter because of some of the things they said, and their name is also in the credits. But it's kind of weird because their social media accounts are actually named after their real name, but in English. And of course, China doesn't use English as their primary language. So I'm pretty sure that the Honkai Star Rail screenwriter just kind of expected people not to notice. And they did notice, and then they found all their social media accounts and kind of just like stalked them. So now we have a bunch of screenshots of what the Honkai Star Rail screenwriter said using their semi-anonymous account. And yeah, let me just read you this tweet by Hoyoverse Japan. I don't think this is actually the real account. It's definitely not the real account of Hoyoverse for Japan. But essentially what they're saying is that we noticed that some disrespectful remarks from Honkai Star Rail's screenwriter about characters have been leaked. I want to say that it's a part of the corporate culture, as stated in the pinned post. Every character is just a commodity to Hoyoverse. So they're talking about their pinned post here. What I want to remind you, every character is a commodity for Hoyoverse. If you constantly invest genuine emotions in a character, Hoyoverse will soon make you realize it's just a commodity. Why react so much? Obviously, Nahida is the commodity that writers want to clear out quickly. Yeah, this probably doesn't make any sense to you unless you actually see the post that they're talking about. So, one of the things that people are upset about the Honkai Star Rail screenwriter is the fact that they kind of said some rude things in their social media posts in response to some Honkai Star Rail, not specifically Honkai Star Rail, but just like Hoyoverse fans in general. Less so Genshin Impact, but let me just show you some of the things they said. Okay, so here is where is it? Profile. Yeah, this is what they found, right? They found an ad essentially by this person whose name is Li Mongan in Chinese, but they wrote it in English here, which is probably why they didn't expect people to find it. And essentially, what they wrote was an ad for screenwriters, right? On the top sentence here, you have location Shanghai, company MiHoYo, screenwriter for new projects, full time 10 to 15,000. This is probably what they are looking to pay their workers. Yeah, this is basically an ad, and then there's more stuff here. Yeah, this is the post that most people are talking about, which is this. Yeah, this is a post on NGA, which I believe is like some kind of Chinese forum. And the thread basically starts saying, "Why doesn't MiHoYo put any effort into the most important places?" This is by UID 424-87717. That's not really important, but essentially, this is the post that Li Mongan responded to. And in the post, they say Sila's inner self calls Bronya Onesama, but outer self calls Bronya Onesan. New PV's first line is Sila's inner self shouting Bronya Onesan. Um, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you unless you've played Honkai Impact, but Sela, I believe, has like two separate personalities. I did watch a Honkai Impact third animation that basically shows like two versions of her. Like there's one that is like super powerful and like dark, and the other one is just like her normal self. So I'm assuming this is what they're talking about. And essentially what they're pointing out is that in the preview video that they released, Sela's inner self is not using the correct terminology for how they address Bronya, who is like, if you play Honkai Star, you'll probably know that the relationship transcends universes or whatever. That's basically they're supposed to be together. So they're just pointing this out, and Li Moan responds, "Is this really important? Only the kind of Sela main like you would find this important, right?" So he's being rather dismissive here, and essentially this is what everybody is getting all like up in arms about. Personally, I think it's kind of like a small thing, but because they got offended, they also went and searched for some of his other posts, and they're also somewhat dismissive. And I'll get to that later. But this is basically the main one that everybody is talking about. If you look here, yeah, there are other posts kind of explaining what is happening. This person, lol44477549 says, "From what I got, the screenwriter was mocking the players, so someone doxed him and found all his accounts and found out he was shit talking waifu enjoyer, saying he enjoys seeing female players heartbroken from the writing." I assume he's talking about Yumi's. Okay, so there's another post here that is basically explaining what he's talking about. Not this, not this, not this. Yeah, this is the one. So this is a more recent post that he did because this one is all the way back in 2019, May 31st. So this is like more than 4 years ago. But here is a recent one that was just posted like 36 minutes ago from when this post was taken, and this is blurred out because apparently this is his real account. But then there's also like another post here that shows the real name, so I guess this is a bit useless, I guess, unless you don't want to get banned on whatever social media platform you're posting it on. Anyways, what they're saying here is after every new Shinjo patch, I get unparalleled joy from doing a mega search on Weibo for people's reactions. Seeing female gamers get so worked up and upset over the drama of 5 people brings great joy. Being a screenwriter without too many restrictions is truly the most wonderful job. Ha 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 ha. And then they laugh. So this is the second post that people seem to be upset over, which is that they're basically saying that after every single new patch so far, especially for the Xinzhou region, they enjoy searching for people's reactions on Weibo, which is like kind of like Chinese Twitter. And the screenwriter, this person, enjoys seeing female gamers get worked up. I don't think that it's really the female part that people are upset over, right? Because if you just say that you enjoy seeing people's reactions, especially if they're getting worked up about the work that you put out, it's not really that big of a deal. Like it's pretty just whatever. But apparently, um, yeah, I think I might have even translated it a little bit too softly. Like in terms of the Chinese words here, it's more like this person is saying that they like seeing female gamers like shocked reactions and basically crying their like eyes out or whatever, eyeballs out. So yeah, this is the second post that people are upset over. Um, and of course they enjoy it, and apparently they don't have too many restrictions on what they can write here. So yeah, that's basically what the post says. There's another tweet here that goes into more detail, I believe, and explains it in a more concise way. Auto Tot says, "Yup, they said they would ego surf. I don't even know if that's a word. Is ego surf a word? Ego surf intensively on Weibo after each patch release, and it was so fun to see the fandom scream and fight each other over the love and hate of the five. The five refers to the 5 heroes of the High Cloud Quintet. Some CN players are mad because it's usually considered unprofessional for screenwriters of Mobage, Mobage, Mobage. I don't know this word. To show off on Weibo. Number two, there's some speculation of the romantic relationships among the five based on in-game books and texts, and some people are losing faith in the future plots. Number three, the marketing of the Honkai Star Rail is known for being too close to the fandom already. As the screenwriter used the same username everywhere online, some people found out that they had replied to a post on Tieba on a CN forum which criticized the main story of Shinjo and called the OP illiterate. This is a bit too much. I have actually never personally seen. I've searched up the thread that they're talking about, or at least one that is related to it, but I've actually never seen a post by the screenwriter doing this. Specifically calling somebody who is criticizing the main story of Shinjo as illiterate. I've actually never seen this post, and I have a related Tieba thread going over all of the posts here, and I don't think I've ever seen that one in particular, but there are some other ones that I can show you that I have also done some translations. But yeah, this person is mainly talking about the one where the screenwriter is talking about how much they enjoy like seeing the shocked reactions here. And it's a bit confusing because Chinese doesn't have tenses. There's no like future tense or past tense, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to make this in the present tense or the past tense because there's only been one new Shinjo patch. So I assume that this person is actually talking about future Shinjo patches in either 1.3 or 1.4. So maybe there's going to be something shocking in the future and female players are going to get upset. I don't know. Yeah, that's basically it for that one. This is the one about the Sela. I honestly don't think these two these two posts are not really that controversial in my opinion. They're not that upsetting. They're like, are they offensive? I think the most offensive one is that they just single out female gamers, and this is the part that most people are getting worked up about. Um, and yeah, this post about Sela is the one that Hoyoverse Japan is talking about, which is that it's kind of shocking once you find when you find out that the developers or the writers for the story don't care as much about the characters as you do. Like, yeah, it probably seems really weird that a screenwriter for the franchise that you love doesn't really care as much about the product as you do, to the point where, you know, you're obsessing over whether or not the character is using the correct lines to refer to the correct characters, and then the writer just tells you to, you know, do you really, is this really important, or or is it only people like you that care? So yeah, that's another post about that is basically related to what he's talking about, which is that essentially these characters are commodities, and the most important thing is selling the characters, right? And maybe there's not as much passion into the product as you would believe, which kind of goes against the whole idea of Hoyoverse as this like Disney anime studio, right? They try really hard to present themselves as the anime studio, the anime game studio that is sort of like Disney. They present a very clean image of themselves. That's basically how it works. Oh wait, are these two literally the same post? Fuck. Okay, gotta delete that one. There are some other posts here. Like at one point, he basically called Genshin player this the equivalent of the Chinese equivalent of Genshit. So yeah, this is another post that I found on Tieba. I think it's over here somewhere. Actually, it probably doesn't matter. I'll just show you the post here. So number one, the post is saying blatantly called a Genshin player OP. The post says, "What's up with them recently? Get spirited away by that OP." Which doesn't make a lot of sense in English. OP usually means like the opening comment on a thread. But in this context, OP is a derogative term for Genshin players in Chinese. It's kind of like a homonym or something like that. It's like the O represents the first character in Genshin Impact in Chinese, and then the P is the same homonym for a word that is simply a classifier, right? So it's basically calling somebody a Genshin player, but in a derogative sense. It's kind of like saying Genshin herd, but colloquially in English, it's probably something more like Genshit. So that's another part that people are worked up about. There's more here where the screenwriter talks about what he thinks about people who criticize the story. I didn't actually find a post that correlates with him insulting people who found the Shinjo story bad or criticized the Shinjo story and called them illiterate, but he does say some other stuff about people who criticize the story. And this was all the way back in 2021, so it's not even about Honkai Star Rail. It's not even about Genshin Impact because this is in the Honkai Impact third forum. And the post basically says, this is what he says: thoughts on criticism of continuity problems. He says, it's like this. Some certain individuals' attitudes can be summarized as not adhering to what I want to be written is basically illogical. Characters can't behave in a way I find illogical, or it's basically a retcon. So this is him describing a certain portion of players who criticize the story writing as not being consistent with the writing prior to that point or whatever patch that they're talking about. So maybe like there's like a certain word here that is sort of like a cross between a retcon and continuity problems. I'm not sure there's like a specific word for that in English, but basically what they're talking about, the problem that they're talking about is that if you a character does something in the current story and then it conflicts and contradicts something they did in the past. That's basically the problem that people are criticizing and he's responding to. And then he goes on to say, reality is that characters not adhering to pre-established patterns is common in creative writing. As for this question, for the question of writing according to whose wishes, the pen is still in someone else's hand. And the last sentence, as far as I can tell, is him like basically saying, well, you can complain all you want, but I'm still the one writing the story, right? So that's what he's referring to by someone else. That's basically him referring to himself, I think. So it's like he's criticizing people who are criticizing the story for not being consistent, and then he says, well, I'm still the one writing the story. So that's part one of him criticizing people who are criticizing the story. Here's another one. This is a post from 2021, March 24th, also in the Honkai Impact Third forum. It's saying, "Wish MiHoYo would put more effort into their story. Very straightforward. They want, this is probably something that we have all thought about at some point or another. Probably to other parts of HoYoverse games as well as the story." And then this guy, the screenwriter, responds, "Ugh, this thread is basically an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect." And for people who don't know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, basically something that you use to describe people who actually have a very low ability or expertise in what they're talking about and then overestimating themselves. It's usually used, I think, when people are talking about stuff that they don't really know anything about. So essentially, he's calling the people in this thread dumb. And here's another one. This is not him criticizing other people for criticizing Genshin and HoYoverse games. This is him talking about Honkai Star Rail's comparison to Fate Grand Order. So this was back in 2021, October 30th, and Honkai Star Rail had not come out yet. But the thread title is basically saying Star Rail's position is Honkai's Fate Grand Order. And the person responding, the screenwriter, says, "FGO story without Nasu and Urobuchi's first-class writing struggles to be even passing. Everybody standing for FGO needs to back off." And I'm not a Fate Grand Order player, so I don't know for sure what Nasu and Urobuchi's role in the writing of the story is. I do know Nasu is, I think, isn't he the one who started the whole Fate franchise in the first place? I know Urobuchi wrote something for Fate Zero. So basically he's saying that without these two people working on Fate Grand Order story, the story is just kind of mid to kind of mediocre. And yeah, this is another thing that people have been talking about, which is him throwing shade at another game. And I think that's it. That's basically most of the most important tweets. There's another really funny one here somewhere that I found. Um, Basically him retweeting a post about Yunjin, basically saying that, yeah, this is the kind of innovative product that MiHoYo makes, and it's in the products that we make, right? This is basically innovative. We are making a game that is such high quality that it will be written in the annals of history. And then he goes on to say in another line in the second sentence, I can't find that somewhere. Okay, this is too hard. But essentially he goes on to say in the second sentence, he uses a very, very old word or a very convoluted word, a very convoluted term to basically say that a lot of naysayers may hate Genshin Impact, but eventually their voices will be drowned out by the quality of our game. But he says it in such a way that it's like in classical Chinese, and all of the responses are making fun of him, saying, "Okay, so this is basically why all the terms in Genshin Impact make no fucking sense, and they're like a bunch of obscure terms that you never see in real life." So I thought that was kind of funny. At least that was my interpretation of what the post was saying. I'm not really sure. So yeah, you can go check out this Tieba Weibo thread if you want to yourself. If you can read Chinese, you can probably understand this better than I do. Here, they went and searched up the people he follows. Yeah. I think they also, yeah, I probably shouldn't show you anymore because there is a picture of his real name later on, in Chinese, and yeah. So that's basically it for what I have to talk to you guys about Honkai Star Rail today. Hopefully that was somewhat entertaining. And I honestly don't think that this is too big of a problem. Like people are apparently people have gotten so upset that they tried to dox the person. Um and they're pretty sure he's like the real deal. He is an actual screenwriter for MiHoYo because the same ID posted recruiting info for MiHoYo in 2018. That's this post. No, that's not it. 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 This is it. Yeah, this was back in 2018. This is essentially an ad that he posted to recruit more writers for HoYoverse games, essentially. Yeah, he was looking for screenwriters for a new project. Should be Honkai Star Rail for MiHoYo. Also, he's mutuals with another known screenwriter for Honkai Impact Third on Weibo. So at this point, it's pretty likely that he does work at MiHoYo, and he said some sort of rude stuff online, and then people tried to dox him. So that's basically it. It is what it is. Make it of it what you will. This is Bench Gamer signing out. See you guys later.